So today we're replacing the air suspension on this for coil spring setup on a Discovery 3. Step 1, just removing the wheels. One of the wheel bolts on mine is missing its chrome cap, so I had to smack on a 19 to get that off. And then just the same on the back. So these are the 3 bolts that hold the top of the strut in. There's one there towards the back, and then just in the distance you can see the rearmost one, which we'll get to from inside the engine bay, and then you can see the airline as well. It's better to leave the airline connected until you drop the strut, so you've got a bit of better access. And step 1 is just going to be to spray it down with some lubricant and then clean it with a wire brush and just try and get rid of as much of the rust as you can. These ones here were pretty bad, so what I tend to do is I went in with a 16. These are supposed to be 15mm nuts, and I just go in there with a 16 and just wiggle it from side to side, and any loose rust on there sort of gets broken loose and falls off. And then I tried all of these with the 15, but all of them just pretty much rounded out. There's just too much rust on them. So in the end I went with these little fluted sockets that you can sort of push on there, and then as they turn in the loosening direction they bite in. So just to get that started, I've got my pry bar here, so just push it down and just wedge it in between the body, just like that. And then some of these were really tight, so I couldn't actually undo them by hand. I had to get the spanner on there and just sort of hammer on it like a slogging spanner, just to get it loose, or at least to start getting it loose. Yeah, so you can see it's quite rusted, and it takes quite a lot of effort even just to get the smallest amount of turns on it. It doesn't help that it's in like such a confined area as well. But if you persist, after a while they will come out. And then just do the same on the others. It's pretty much the same story. Thankfully on the rear I was able to get a full socket on it on both sides, so that made it an awful lot easier. If you can get a full socket on it, I found they come apart a lot easier. So in order to get to it you have to remove a fair bit of stuff. I'm wondering if you have to remove all of this or not. I just stripped it all back. It's the first time I've ever done the struts in these, so I think I may have taken off a little bit more than I needed to. But the bottom of this tray is just 3/13s. And then one little 13 down there beside the brake fluid reservoir. And then there's a little PH2 that holds a piece of heat shielding to this little plastic box. And then the plastic box is pretty much loose now. There's a couple of clips in the front of it that you can see me just looking at there. So I was struggling to get down there to those. You probably could do it with a pick, but I just thought I'd remove the airbox, give myself a little bit more room rather than accidentally breaking something. So there's 2 8s that hold in this little air ducting over the fan. I just removed those just to give me a little bit of extra room, a little bit of wiggle room. And then all you need to do is unplug the mass airflow sensor just down there, remove the TP clamp, and then lift up and pull. And then the whole air filter and box just comes out. And then once that's out, there's the 2 clips, much easier to get to, and then that just pulls out of the way. And then that's the heat shield there. So you just pull up on this. There's a little section there. They're really difficult to get back in neatly as well. Or at least I found it really difficult. And I just pull up on the one end and then tuck it in. I don't feel the need to remove this part completely, just enough to get the heat shield out. And then now that the heat shield is out of the way, you can put an extension in there, going down onto the strap, and then it just sits on the rearmost nut. To get it off. And then that's all 3 of the nuts off. That one there's just wedged against the body, but once the bottom pinch bolt is undone, this one just down here, that'll come off no problem. So that's I think it's a 24 both sides on the front. So I just spray that down with a bit of WD-40 on the nut side and just try and clean the threads with the wire wheel. And then just go full send. So I was just trying to undo that bolt. It's just stuck inside the shock, I suppose. So I just keep bending it. And I try to keep my hands open here, because when you're pushing towards the floor, if you keep your hands in a fist, eventually your hand will go straight into the floor and you'll lose all the skin off your knuckles.
I got it. If it's frozen, you need to
let it go.
Yeah.
And then just a little bit more of the same. If you don't live somewhere where there's loads of corrosion, you probably won't have to deal with any of this. But if you live anywhere where they salt the roads and you have an older Land Rover, then this is the kind of thing that you're likely to run into. Even things that should be simple can take you a really long time. Got it. I just like to push on the back side of that bolt just to help pull it all the way out, and then that's that. You can see that little bit of rust on the shank is usually where they get stuck. So now, apart from the airline, it should be pretty much loose. So you just need to give it a wiggle, and sometimes you just need to get the pry bar in at the top. So these airlines are 12s, and the reason I said wait until you drop it down is because you can get the spanner all the way around the air fitting, whereas if you try to undo it while it's still in the tower, you'll only get a tiny fraction of the spanner on there, and they usually just round out. So it's better to do it this way, and then you can leave everything intact. And if you don't cut anything, then if you ever decide that you want to go back to air suspension, you have the option, or at least you'll have less work to do in order to get back there. So this is the rear, and it's exactly the same principle. There's 3 nuts on top of the tower that hold it down. I drop the spare wheel in mine, and I get to the back bolt from there. But the principle is exactly the same as the front two. The front two are definitely more difficult. The back ones tend to be a lot easier. And I just had the same problem here that I had on the front. Every time I tried to undo one of the bolts, they were just so badly rusted. So I ended up using the little spiral fluted bolt extractors and a spanner to get them out. I did this one, and then I think this one I got Dad to do and give my arms a rest.
There she comes. Getting looser. No, they ain't going.
Yeah, it is. Is the nut still on there? It is. Gonna get the nut. You donut. I got that on camera.
There we go.
There we go. She might need a little bit of persuasion to... Always make sure you put the nuts and bolts back together. Ba-doom. There you go. And then you got to spin it. Spin it around. And then...
Yeah, hose.
12mm on the airline. They come up pretty easy. That's it. Every last thread will fight you. That's the way it goes. I do the same thing you do. I just put my finger behind it to stop it from springing back again.
Yeah.
She's out.
It's a boy.
Very good. You're showing your age with that old school parenting. So these are all 4 of mine removed. You can see it's just 1 pinch bolt at the bottom of them to remove them, so that's nice and simple. And then you just get your 3 bolts, 3 nuts should I say, at the top, and then your air fitting. Unfortunately, I don't know why I didn't check where I'd put the camera, but all I was doing in this shot was just lifting up the strut into the tower, and then obviously you have to push the little threaded sections through, and then just put a nut on the top side, and that's good. You don't want to tighten them up yet. You want to wait until you've got the little pinch bolt in the bottom done first. So here I am just tightening down the back one a little bit, but not all the way. Try to use my big bar here just to bring down this bottom arm and try and align the hole. And apply some copper grease as well and make your life easier if you ever have to take it apart again.
Say when?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah, go.
Right, here we go.
Oh, just wants to go just a touch lower.
Well done.
You're good? You're off, that's it.
Well, I'm just enjoying this. There we are.
Very nice. Once you've got it through, just tighten it up. And then same again up here. Now we're just going to go back and tighten these the rest of the way down. I had to get all replacement nuts, so mine are, I got some 17mm nylock nuts as replacements for the ones that got completely destroyed.
For that small, use a cable tie temporarily. Yeah, just fuel. Okay. You need a P clip, not a Jubilee clip for that.
And then from the top and it's pretty much exactly the same process for the other side. And then you can enjoy your nice shiny new springs and struts. And then it's just time to reassemble everything in the engine bay. Now that I've done both sides, I don't need to leave any of this apart. And the sooner you put it back together, the less likely you are to forget where something went. I had some real trouble with this stupid little thing. I just couldn't get it to seat back in there neatly. And in the end I just resorted to guerrilla tactics, as you can see here. I'm only tapping it gently and it seated at home no problem. And then with that back where it belongs, I can refit the rest of this trim. It's sort of like a segmented box really. So that's that little box reassembled. Make sure all the clips are down and tight. And then next we can reassemble the airbox. So there's a little trick to getting that little connection back in. There's one 8mm, and then the connection sort of twists into the back of the airbox. So you'll see here, I try to twist the piping. There we go, just there, so you just pull it up and twist it around, and then the back locates, and then you put an 8mm little tech screw sort of thing in the front. Seat home the airbox. There's that little bolt. And then there's 2 more bolts down here that go into the top of the fan shroud. They don't need to be tight at all, really. And then do not forget to plug back in the mass airflow sensor. And then last but not least in this area, we just want to make sure that Jubilee clamp is tightened up, especially considering it's after the airflow meter. We want that to be nice and tight. And then on the other side, it's pretty much exactly the same process. We need to put the heat shield back in, and in order to get the heat shield out we had to remove plenty of stuff. So I made a mistake here. I put back in the bottom of the battery tray first and forgot about the heat shield completely, so I had to take this out again. But essentially it's the same as the other side. It's just 3 13s, 2 on the top and then 1 down the side there closer to the windscreen. You can see me trying to figure it out. Second time's the charm. And then again, this tiny little piece can be really frustrating. I had some problems with it on this side here too. And there's just a little Phillips screw there, PH2.
Bank holiday Monday.
Is it? What it was or it is? Ah, okay.
So just clip all of that into place.
If only.
And then just put that screw back. It's just a little retaining screw that goes through the top of the heat shield
Oh yeah?
down into the plastic box into the side of it. And then there's a little plug around here as well that gets plugged back in. There it is, just found it. And then back in with the battery. You're probably better off doing the positive sides first. I don't always think about what I'm doing. I just start bolting back up the closest thing. But it did occur to me afterwards that I connected the battery first, and then I connected it up to the fuse box, which probably isn't very wise because you can blow a fuse. I got away with it. But just because I got away with it doesn't mean that you will. And then last but not least in this area is just the battery clamp, which is held on by 2 8mm. Just need to shimmy the battery around until you find both of the little locating threaded holes, and then that's that. Tighten those up. They don't need to be
Piggy.
super tight. Only a little bit. And that is it for the engine bay. So just on the back here, in order to get the strut in, I have to remove this bolt here at the top. This is a camber bolt, so I'm just striking gently into it just to mark the position that it's in. It'll probably need an alignment anyway, getting new suspension parts, but this will at least get it close enough to safely drive down to the tyre shop. Tap out that bolt. There's a 21 this. And you definitely don't want to lose the washer or the nut for that, especially the washer in particular. And then once that is done, you can pop that apart. And we'll also remove the axle. The front will pull forward and we don't want to accidentally pop the drive shaft out of the diff. So we'll make sure that's moving first, just give that a little push.
I don't care as much as most people, you know. Most people.
And thankfully for me, it's not stuck.
Brand loyalty.
Moved easily.
I am not like that at all. Don't want to break our ABS cable. Some jiggery pokery gone on here before. It often does.
And then just tighten them down.
We're done, aren't
Need
we?
the jack, don't we?
No, you need the bar.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
The bar we need. Oh!
No way.
Wait, easy.
No.
That's it, take it out. You saw it here first! The other side went just as easily as that, didn't it? Because we're pros.
Exactly. I'll tell you what I'm going to do that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Is that there? It's clearing all of that.
Yeah.
The other one there looks like it's going to rub against this.
Nah. This is the only way it can go in.
No, but look there.
So getting this little rose joint aligned back up with this top arm can be really tricky. I had all 4 corners of mine lifted, so I had to be careful that I didn't lift it too high, but if you were doing 1 corner at a time, you wouldn't necessarily have that problem, so you could just jack it up as much as you liked. So I could only jack it up so far, and then I had to rely on being able to lever the top arm down to meet it. And this took me more than just a couple of minutes to get this lined back up. The other ones went really fast. so you'll slowly but surely get there. So you can see I just start to get it done there, and then in this instance I think I put the bolt through the wrong way and my marks didn't line up, so off camera I just took it out and spun it over again. And then same again on this side here, it's just a case of tightening those down. And then once that's done, just put the nose back on. Obviously tighten up the axle nut again. And that's it. That is just the mechanical side, none of the electronics.
Not bad.
Fantastic.
It'll probably settle down a little bit.
There's advantages and disadvantages, but it's your choice.